Part 3. So in this part, we're going to be talking a little bit about the Browns' interesting financial history. But before I get into the details of that, I did want to provide just a little bit of maybe cultural context for some of the Browns' financial decisions. Because I think coming from a wholly secular background, it's really easy to look at their financial history and just be like, that's crazy. That's irresponsible. Why would any sane person do that? And while I don't necessarily disagree with that, I just think it's important to kind of understand where they're coming from, if you know what I mean. And just as a quick disclaimer, in no way am I talking about every fundamentalist Mormon when I say this, every fundamentalist Mormon community. Even though they can be very similar in a lot of ways, we also know that they can be very, very different. So this is in no way a blanket statement. But it is true that in some fundamentalist Mormon communities where families can get really, really big, that questionable financial practices can become more of a norm. Because there are very, very few fundamentalist Mormon families like the Browns, and there are a ton of fundamentalist Mormon families that are significantly larger than the Browns. Like, they're pretty medium to small size as far as polygamist Mormon families go. And if you have 50, 60, 100 children, even if you're in a community where women can work and all the wives can have a job, it's gonna be hard to support all those children. So some financial practices like ringing up a lot of debt and filing bankruptcy and maybe doing it over and over and over again become more of just kind of like a financial tool as opposed to a last resort. And I am in no way saying that to justify any questionable financial things the Browns have done. I'm just saying it to give just a little context of maybe the culture that they were in. So with that said, I know people often blame Robin for a lot of the family's financial issues because she very famously comes into the family with some debt, but they did very much have financial problems before she was even in the picture at all. About 5 years before Robin was married to Cody, Cody and Mary, because Mary was the only legal wife at the time, filed for bankruptcy, citing that they could not pay about $230,000 worth of debt that was mostly made up by like mortgages, car loans, and a significant amount of credit card debt. And so that took about 2 years to figure out in the courts. They ended up having to pay about half, maybe a little under. And then fast forward to 2010, Robin is getting ready to get married to Cody. She talks about on the show coming into the family with some debt. I believe it was about $30,000, and feeling bad about making that the family's problem now that she's not going to be working. At the time when she's talking about it in the first season, she makes it sound very much like it was a necessity, something she had to do to provide for her 3 kids after she got divorced from her first husband. And most people heard that and were sympathetic. Because, you think in their culture, the men are the ones who are supposed to be the breadwinners. She was left, high and dry. But as they do, internet sleuths found out that the majority of her debt was in-store credit cards, primarily Target, Sears, and Victoria's Secret. At the time, Robin was still on social media, so she, of course, was confronted about this. And when she was confronted, her explanation for the Victoria's Secret debt was that she has a tall frame and she had to get custom clothing from Victoria's Secret because she is so tall. And listen, I'm not tall. I'm about 5'5", and I think Robin's maybe about 5'8", 5'9". So maybe that's a thing people that tall have to do. I never knew Victoria's Secret was like a big and tall custom clothing maker. But maybe it is. I don't know. People didn't buy it though. And it came up again when they moved to Las Vegas and found the cul-de-sac houses. Robin couldn't get a home loan until that debt was taken care of. And if I remember correctly, it was primarily taken care of by Mary and Janelle's income. So they get rid of Robin's debt. Everything's all well and good. They have the cul-de-sac houses. They're all right next to each other. And then Robin comes to the family with this idea for a business that she says has been her dream for the longest time, which is she wants to open a jewelry and possibly clothing boutique called My Sister Wives Closet. And if you're not a watcher of the show and you're not familiar with My Sister Wives Closet, let me give you a little taste right now. Here's a custom designed Sister Wives necklace in very fancy cartoon letter. Here's another one. Hopefully you can see even more bold, more cartoony. Here's a shirt design Robin did just to give you a little feel of the vibe. And listen, I'm not here to yuck anybody's yum. If this is your vibe, like whatever, but this stuff was ridiculously expensive. We're talking like hundreds of dollars for that jewelry. This t-shirt was probably like $30. And so they entertain Robin's idea to start this business. It is unsurprisingly not profitable from the get. Here's Cody from their website banner. And after they really give it the old college try, it just is not a profitable business. So because they have to financially provide for such a large family, the adults understandably start dropping off after this business proves to not be very viable. I think first Cody dropped out of the whole thing, and then quickly followed by Janelle, who was trying to become a realtor at the time. Christine was also trying to become a realtor, but she hung on for a little bit longer and eventually had to have a conversation with Robin about not being able to participate anymore. And then Mary, like she does, didn't want to disappoint Robin, so she hung on the longest, but eventually had to tell her she was dropping out because she wanted to go back to school, which you would think would be something Robin would be super excited about for Mary, but she had kind of a weird reaction. I really thought I was going to be able to play the conversation between Robin and Mary, but I'll just have to make that in a different post. I'm still learning how to do all the green screens. But essentially the way it goes is Mary is scared to tell Robin she's going back to school. She tells Robin, and Robin's response, she says in a talking head, is that she tries her hardest not to storm out of the room, even though it's not making anybody any money and it's just basically wasting Mary's time. And they're also all pooling together money for the family as a whole, so she wants to pursue something more financially viable. So I will definitely post that in a different post. And there is definitely other financial drama I'm probably missing between this time and the time they moved to Coyote Pass. But even by the time they're moving to Coyote Pass in Flagstaff, Arizona, Robin still has a reputation with fans for being kind of an overspender, a shopaholic, if you will. And that not only comes from her shopping debt from the beginning of the entire series, but also little glimpses into her house show some kind of cluttered areas, and people catch members of the family kind of like subtly hinting at her spending habits in candid moments. But I'm already running out of time again, so I'll have to do a part 2 of all the financial drama, which technically would be part 4. So I will see you in part 4.